Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 474. It is currently 10:17 p.m. a bit late in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The 14th day of the third month, that month being March. We're in March, people. 2025. A brand new year, an interesting year, a very wonderful and interesting year to be alive. What a time to be alive, isn't it? What a time to be alive. Interesting things happening all around the world. There hasn't been a more interesting time, I think. What we got on the docket? Well, you know, our Prime Minister is resigning. I believe the first of our Prime Ministers ever to resign while in power. So I think, and I know many people have their own views on it, and many people may say otherwise and all of that, but I think that's actually a point in his column. I'd put that so. I think that's a point in his column. I think so. The ability to come out without having to be dragged out, unless maybe, who knows, in the preceding couple months or years we may find out that there was a dire reason he ran away and escaped. If that be the case, and we'll take a relook at his legacy with that hindsight. But as it stands now, looking at it as it goes, I said since last year, I have been saying, I think if Dr. Rowley goes up for Prime Minister, for MP for Diego Martin and that prime ministerial portfolio again against Mrs. Prasad Visasa, I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna win, and I don't actually think he has much worry about whether he's going to win or not. So I don't think like it's some kind of polling that said he's going to lose and that's why he ran away. So if he indeed is just saying, you know, I had enough, it's time to hand it over to another generation, I will put that as points in his column. I will. I genuinely will. We're looking at our opposition leader doing what they do. They're blaming the Prime Minister and the government for what occurred with the United Kingdom. We'll see if that's a plausible blame. M-Man is saying he is running away from something, but we will know. I don't know. What is he? What could it possibly be that he's running away from, that resigning from Prime Minister will give him the escape of? I just don't know. I don't know. Interesting, Trini Hotep? Interesting stuff. Also news on the further Caribbean. By the way, there are other Caribbean islands that didn't even have the visa-free travel already. We look at our neighbor Ms. Motley, who had quite a mouthful to say about the whole Cuban doctors business, even though Barbados does not have any Cuban doctors, but she's standing in solidarity. So we look at that and what she had to say, and whether indeed it is true that it's a good thing for these Cuban doctors to be here. We look at the nursing association that spoke out on this also, saying they don't know about the exploitation business. We look at those things, and the further sanctions on Venezuela, seeming like, you know, there's a chance that sends Venezuela into more turmoil. If indeed Venezuela goes into more turmoil, what's the position of Trinidad and Tobago? As it stands, we're already having a problem with Venezuelan migrants constantly flooding our borders. If the sanctions are turned on higher and harder by the Trump administration out there in the United States, what's that going to do to the migrant situation out of Venezuela? We're looking at the opposition also saying that they are going to renegotiate the Dragon gas deal if they get into power. And you know, I really don't like the position that the opposition is taking on so many of these investment portfolios, and it seems very purposeful. It seems like the opposition party is purposefully attempting to scare away investment from Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that the PNM remains in a bad position to put themselves in a better position. I despise that. I hate that kind of thinking, because we are Trinis, we are on this ship. It makes no sense you're drilling holes in the hull of the ship so that you could say the ship captain is bad, so that we choose you to be a captain, because you're damaging the ship we are all on, you buffoons. Jeez, that's so annoying. That's so annoying. It is tedious. And when we look at actually sending the country forward, look at countries, look at places in the world where they succeeded in really benefiting their country. You can't have things like this. You have to attract that foreign investment. You have to do that. They have already scared away some, and they seem intent to continually do that. I don't like that stuff. However, Double G is saying that he is looking to put forward a different brand of politics. If indeed that's the truth, props to him. That's a point in his column. Griffith is saying, you know, he's not on the gutter politics. He's looking for a more well-evolved level of politics. Wouldn't that be grand if that can catch on? You all heard that there have been quite a few millions sitting there in NLCB unclaimed. Seems like people lose their winning tickets regularly. Interesting. They harassing Dole Mother while we stopped what they call a $250 million, $250 million with a B, $250 million drug trafficking ship off our coast. So they said. The ship originated from Guyana and was headed up the islands. Sinaloa, apparently. Bacchanal in Tobago as usual. And if we'll get there, I don't know if we'll get there, but there's a story here about the Concordat. The Presbyterian board sued the Ministry of Education. Their case fell apart, it was thrown out, but the board is still standing strong for their rights. And I am on the board side. Good night, sweet Douglas. I am on the board side. I'm on the board side when it comes to our education system. I do not want to give government more control of our education system. Look at the results of government schools, look at the results of board-run schools, and you tell me, who do you think is better at running schools? And do we want to give the state more authority in the running of schools, or would we prefer give that to boards? I would prefer give it to the boards, personally. But let's jump into the news. Not the Board of Education, the religious boards we're talking about. The Catholic board, the Presbyterian board, the Sanatan Dharma Mahasabha, the Astra, etc. They run their schools according to the Concordat and that relationship that the Concordat put into writing. And a judge basically ruled that the state had the authority to choose teachers even for these board schools, while the board did not want it that way. And the board was saying that's how we always did it, but the judge basically ruled that it's not so in the law. If you want to do it like that, you have to get it written in the law. It can't just be what you're accustomed to, because accustomed to isn't in the law, and now the state is attempting to hold more control of these educational institutions. I find this ludicrous. I find it headed in the wrong direction. Look at, for example, what they're doing in the United States. They're disbanding their Department of Education. Not that they're not focused on education anymore, they're sending the education focus, the education control down to their states, closer to the people, closer to private schools even, and you would get better results generally like that. A bureaucratic education system does not give results, and a bureaucratic educational system is what governments give. The governments give us bureaucracies. So I don't want that. No thanks. No thanks. Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. If you are looking at this over on YouTube, please do hit that like button there. You leave a comment if you have something to say. I'd read it. I do look at those comments. And make sure you're subscribed if you are not yet subscribed, and share the live. If you are looking at this on TikTok or on YouTube, wherever you're looking at it, make sure and share this with a friend. Tell everybody, hey, good stuff. Tune in. Go listen to this. So let's jump into some of the news, people. Exiting Rowley says he must have done something good in office. I have no regrets. The managerial class is never good at managing. Very ironic. Because the managerial class, to me, isn't really about management. The managerial class is how the class of meritorious winners of the last generation get their children into advanced positions without merit. Here's what I mean. That's what I would call the managerial class. So let's say my parents actually did hard work. They went out and launched a business. They were entrepreneurs. They made something of themselves. All they could give me is a leg up in the education system and some money to go forward. So what would be ideal is if you could create an entire class of workers that get a lot of money, and the only real way to get into that class of worker is to come from a home with a lot of money. Like all of those UN workers, a lot of the NGOs, who runs the NGOs and are managers of this NGO, that NGO, the other one, this and that. Look who their parents are. Do you think there's a serial killer in South Indian or Spanish doing that? I don't know. With the headless lady, I have no idea. I believe I saw something about maybe she was homeless or something to that effect. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Dr. Rowley says, I have no regrets. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has declared that he has no regrets about his tenure as he looks toward retirement on Sunday. And as he prepares to exit the political landscape, the Prime Minister says he has put his life to service and jokingly shared, I sometimes sing in the bathroom and my favorite tune is from The Sound of Music. Somewhere in my youth or childhood, I must have done something good. The comment came in a candid final wide-ranging interview with journalists from Guardian Media, CCN, TV6 and TTT at Whitehall, Port of Spain on Tuesday, which was broadcast last night. Rowley reflected on his time in office with a sense of fulfillment, even as he acknowledged the challenges faced by successive governments in steering the nation through complex social, economic and political issues. You would have heard at least one Prime Minister I can think of, I think possibly two I know of, who would have said Trinidad and Tobago is a difficult country to govern, and it is largely because we are a free people who enjoy significant freedoms. Freedom to even waste your time. Freedom to play the fool. Freedom to make good when you can do better, Dr. Rowley said. And here's the thing. I want our nation to remain free. I want our nation to remain free. And yes, it is always tempting for politicians to say that if we could curtail a little bit of freedom, we would get a much more governable nation. But please don't. Please don't. Because you don't know where that line is best drawn. Maybe I could kind of agree with you at Trini Hotep. Just saying I could kind of agree with you. But we are indeed, and I believe that. I believe Trinidad and Tobago is a difficult country to govern. I do believe that. And I think to some extent, that's why a country like ours doesn't, hey Ronnie, a country like ours doesn't require as much of the social side of governing. What you need, to me, in a country like ours is you govern that economic side and leave the social side, let it roil on its own. Because to attempt to hedge that in, good luck with that. The whole carnival business, that whole first 2 months of the year devoted to the season of carnival, is a kind of insane thing when you think about it on a countrywide basis. You bear in mind, the idea of carnival was genesis on rebellion from the authorities, from the governing authorities. That was kind of the vision of carnival in the origin. And to celebrate it now and keep it genuine, you kind of have to be permissive of what is rebellion of an ordered system. Because that's what carnival was designed as. rebellion against the ordered system. And now that we control the ordered system, as it's not the French who are the colonial powers, it's not the English, it's not Great Britain that is ruling with their governor general or whoever. No, it's us. We are the authorities. Do we still leave great permissibility to allow for that revelry and rebellion for 2 months to start off our year? It's a difficult country to govern. What do you do with that? And what do you do with that culture? And then you combine that with the racial dynamics that's always bubbling under the surface there, and you get problems for real. Hey, leave the carnival, my good sir. I mean, I'm not saying to throw it out. I'm just using it as an example to show how we indeed are a difficult country to manage. He said, Dr. Rowley speaking, I'm not in the legacy business. You see thing about legacy and legacy and legacy, I'm not in that. I was in the business of saying this country has been good to me. When I got into the political arena, it was what I can do because other people before me sacrificed. I wasn't about running to get the best paying job in the country because I had offers to work for oil companies. I chose not to do that. I worked for the state. He said as he prepared to bow out of the country's leadership, he accepted there would be mixed memories of him. After stepping down as the country's leader on Sunday, Rowley will serve as the PNM's political leader. He said similar provision will be made internally to ensure party operations are not adversely affected. When I move out as political leader, I don't scatter the pearls. I ensure that the PNM, if I am able to, is strengthened and not weakened, because a strong PNM makes a strong Trinidad and Tobago, he said. While he did not say exactly when he will step down as party leader, he assured there will be no clashing of heads with Prime Minister-elect Stuart Young. I am not holding on to anything. We are in transition, and that transition is to ensure that the PNM is not disadvantaged and the country is not disadvantaged. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I believe him. I believe him. Halfway. I don't think it's about the country not being disadvantaged. I am sorry, doctor. I just don't have that much faith in any politician's magnanimity. I don't believe that they're doing this all out of the goodness of their heart and because they really care about us that much. But I do believe that his maneuvering is to leave a more successful party. And I believe his maneuvering may be effective at doing just that. Because should he have had just bowed out and left it up to open democracy for the party to go down into the trenches and go to lobbying and petitioning and into a full internal election in the party, I think PNM indeed would have suffered from it. I think they would have suffered electorally, and the party itself may have stood a chance of suffering. I wouldn't doubt the stage the PNM would have been at, there may have been a possibility of the party fragmenting and us getting a kind of COPUNC business out of the PNM. Are we not in a democracy? Trini Hotep says. Well, the country is run by democratic elections, but there is no law dictating that the PNM has to be run democratically. The PNM is a private corporation. PNM is a private corporation. You could want what you want. They don't have to hold elections and let everybody vote for what they want to decide. You could decide that you don't like what they do and don't vote for them come national elections. Nathan, this might be unpopular, but I say let the parties be democratic. I kinda agree, but I understand why there would be disagreement. If the parties are made democratic, then party platforms are nearly impossible to hold. The party platform would just be the popular mandate, and you don't get institutionalized party out of that. Now, I could agree with the democratization of parties in the sense of the primary election style that we see out in our neighbors, where what that allows is it allows for outsiders to rise up easier. A full democratic process allows for outsiders to rise up easier in even through the parties. And the reality of our system is the only way you really get elected is through a party. And if you cannot just rise up as an outsider to be nominated as the head of a party, then basically we are locked in a status quo political model where we cannot change it. And we see that in the United Kingdom, we see that in Canada. For example, those two countries are run by establishments that are far more liberal, progressive, globalist thinking than the vast majority of their populations. The United Kingdom voted by popular mandate that they wanted to leave the European Union. They did it over and over and over again. By numbers, they wanted to leave. But the political directorate, everybody, both parties, everybody comes out of the same crew. They're in the same crew together. They just choose where they could go and fit in. So it's not like somebody unknown could get in there and actually make a change. That's why we see it so easy for one person to change from UNC to PNM and PNM to UNC. That should be ridiculous. If you all are saying this other party is literally the spawn of Satan, they want to ruin this country, there should never be a possibility where you leave one party and go to the next one. But there is that because they are all one party, it's all one crew, and that's the, as I say, that's the problem with our parliamentary style governments. We end up with professional politicians that are there for the job. They are looking for a job, and they are professional politicians looking for a job. So I understand that. However, just throwing in democracy there would also change the whole identity of parties, and that will change the structure of how parties are designed, and the parties will incorporate it. If they are a private corporation, who are we to say how they do what they do? Let me see some of these comments. The PNM is a big joke now. The PNM position isn't dictated by party leader. Have you seen the sunken sun? The Saffron Party. Yeah, and that's why I say I understand that, but we'd have to change our whole system. And I don't mind changing our whole system, but we'd have to change our whole system. I don't think you could leave it as it is and then force full democratic internal elections. That doesn't seem right to me. You'd have to change the entire system, and good luck getting that done. However, Sweet Douglas, why would you say the PNM is a big joke now? What would make you say that? What has made the PNM into a big joke now as compared to 2015 when they won, or 2020 when they won again? What has the PNM done in their last stint as government? What have they done that makes them now a joke versus previously? And that's why I say I think they will win, because I don't know what has changed. If you find the PNM is a big joke now, very likely you would have found them a big joke in 2020, and you would have found them a big joke in 2015. And all the kicks and jokey they won back then. And yes, as I was saying about this, I think this is strategizing on the part of Dr. Rowley so that he is left with a good PNM legacy. He leaves the PNM with a very good PNM legacy, the position the party was in, Stuart Young, I don't think, necessarily commanded the popular support of the PNM. So if you put this as a all-horse race, where the horses just line up and race to the finish line, I don't think Mr. Young was winning that. But I think that the people that would have gone up in the race would have ripped that PNM party to shreds, because it's at a changing of the guard stage of the PNM. It's at the stage where many people would be thinking it's my turn now. Like what happened with the UNC when Dukaran jumped up, Kamala Prasad Bisesa jumped up, Prakash Ramadar jumped up. It was a changing of the guards time with the UNC that saw a lot of that internal conflict just bubble to the surface. The PNM Tobago had it too, where Soifat Angus came out of that, and the other Celestine lady. A lot of disunity comes out of it. Follow just like how the French protest, total country shut down. Nicolas Berment, sir, I am not of that view. Protest for what? As I always say, what are we shutting down the country for? What are we aiming to accomplish by that? And do you think if we shut down the whole country, that we would be the ones to benefit? Or do you think the guys who are already criminals and have weapons would be the ones to benefit more? Abdul says Dr. Ali knows he doesn't have the popular vote, so he put party first. Yep. Ronnie says if he bear chasing you and I, Nathan, you don't have to be Usain Bolt to get away. You just have to be faster than me. First past the post. And well, I don't even think that Young would have been faster than the people he ran with. And I think Dr. Rowley knew that. I don't think if you put Stuart Young and Penelope Beckles in a PNM internal election, that it's a given that Stuart Young is going to win that against Penelope Beckles when you're looking at the PNM faithful. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Young might allow him to run remotely. Yeah, might, but I don't know. I don't know. I think I could be proven wrong. I could be proven wrong. But I think the man is actually going to retire. I think so. That's my belief and opinion. I think he is actually going to retire, and he wants to be looked at as a legend of the PNM in his retirement home. The news regularly comes to him to hear his view on the current party politics and his view on what the nation is doing and da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. I don't know if he is looking to be that Obama level where Obama basically kept running. I feel like he's retiring. Nicholas says, in my opinion, we need to make a gun law so that everyone have a fighting. Well, Nicholas, that is my opinion long time now. I mean, I am in full agreement with that long time now. Long time. So, yes. But I feel like the man retiring. That's my view. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll prove me to be severely mistaken and misunderstanding the whole political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe. But I just feel like he's going to play grandpa. He has made his money, he has made his connections. His children are adults, his wife is retired. I think he is going to play grandpa. Rowley is going to hold influence over 100%, without a doubt. I'm not saying he wouldn't be influential, but I just don't think that I foresee a kind of constantly pulling the strings behind the scenes, that like he is the puppet master controlling it. Nielsen says, but if Young didn't command the majority of the support and isn't the strongest person inside, how is he leaving the party stronger? Because a machine, a party, a group is stronger than its individual parts. And if it is that the strongest person would have, so for example, here's an example of that Nielsen. If there was somebody who could have entered the UNC, removed Kamala Persad-Bissessar as leader, and placed Michaela Pandey in the position, probably play matchmaker, get a nice interracial marriage going for Michaela Pandey, because they do these things in politics, eh? Place her as the leader and then push out that UNC there. Kamala Persad-Bissessar commands more of the internal UNC majority support. But who do you think would more likely win a national election? KPB or young Miss Pandey? That's the point. I still think she should have taken the gamble and gone PNM. Boy, Abdul, I feel Ronnie, stop Bandy Williams. My point exactly. But Abdul, I feel the betrayal that some people would have felt if she gone PNM, it might not have been worth it. It might not have been. Listen. There are some people, they are still very loyal to the Pandays, but they fully buy onto the idea that the PNM is the very representation of everything wrong in this country. And I think she would have lost her, like her supporters who would follow her regardless of where else she goes. I think there would be a team that would not have followed her to the PNM. It's not true. That's true, but it would have worked. Yeah, but I think the PNM would have won anyway. Do you think that Miss Pandey could have gotten a seriously influential position in the PNM? I don't know. I don't know if she has those cards to play. If she went over to the PNM, would they have put her in a PNM safe seat, or would they have put her in Couva North and tell her go and try and win your daddy's old seat where she would have lost? Her starting her own party made the most sense. I think so to some extent. Use it to build your political accreditation, to build your political credits, as it would, so that people get to know you. I agree with that. Allow the sun to rise and brighten the skies, Roger Rabbit John says. Kamala slams government over new UK visa requirement. Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar has criticized Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's government for failing to take the necessary actions to prevent the recent rollout of the new visa requirements for the travel to the United Kingdom. Rowley and his government have betrayed, belittled, and broken our citizens with their decade of failure, which has now led to these measures. For years, we warned Rowley about his associations with drug trafficking governments and his failure to deal with our national security, Persad-Bissessar told Guardian Media. Persad-Bissessar said she was not surprised by the action taken by the UK. It must be put on record that the government of the United Kingdom cannot be faulted for such measures. Concerning the number of asylum seekers, some of these asylum seekers are gang members and criminals who are running their criminal operations in TNT from the UK. That is madness that this PNM government has allowed to happen. That is why the UK acted. Once again, the PNM's failure to deal with the violent, bloody crime crisis in TNT has negative international implications on law-abiding citizens. In a desperate attempt at public relations gimmickry, Rowley broadcast to the world at a CARICOM event that there are terrorists in Trinidad and Tobago committing crimes. He was ably supported by foolish business chambers and other political parties, despite the UNC warning them of the negative repercussions of that statement. Well, the international community listened. Sweet Douglas says she ain't lie. Someone says for the sun to rise, Kamala has to set. Who shall the blame the OPVs and squash sort? Well, that would be the partnership. The thing is, the man that is alleged to be one of the high-level gang leaders that is currently seeking asylum in the United Kingdom was arrested during the partnership's reign. And I'm pretty sure he made money off of that arrest. And he wasn't found guilty. So my question and wonder is, what would Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar have done differently? If the man is not found guilty of any crime, he's an innocent law-abiding citizen as far as the law books say. What would you have done differently? I don't know, Abdul. You're asking me questions that are above my pay grade. Hi, DJ Steamy Stevie. Ronnie says UK didn't have to do us like that. Send back all asylum seekers and just tighten up entry. I am not sure if sending back asylum seekers is as easy as that. Remember, seeking asylum is a process. They are not a monarchy. They are a law-based country too. So the asylum seekers have to go through the process. That's why they wait till they are in the United Kingdom to seek that asylum. You are not able to just kick out asylum seekers like that. Remember, these nastiness over at USAID have been sponsoring lawyers in Trinidad that have been suing us on behalf of the asylum seekers from Venezuela and winning some of these cases. You might be surprised. They kick out these asylum seekers, and an alleged gang dealer from Trinidad and Tobago sues the United Kingdom government and wins money from them over infringement on his human rights. To me, though, Double G actually said something more sensible. Griffith, visa restrictions avoidable. National Transformation Alliance leader Gary Griffith, meanwhile, said the UK visa adjustment could have been avoided with better leadership. In a media release, Griffith said the recent announcement that Trinidad and Tobago nationals will now require a visa to enter the United Kingdom is a direct result of a failure in the effective diplomacy and proactive national security management by Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines. This situation was entirely avoidable, and history has already proven that. According to Griffith, in 2014, under the People's Partnership government, the UK indicated that TNT, along with 9 other countries, faced imminent visa restrictions due to similar security concerns, migration risks, and international obligations. He said at the time, he, as National Security Minister, initiated high-level diplomatic engagement with the British High Commission on the issue. Griffith added, Hines has allowed the situation to deteriorate, placing an undue burden on law-abiding citizens, businesses, and the tourism sector. Had he exercised strong leadership to what was demonstrated in 2014, Trinidad and Tobago would not be facing this crisis today. Griffith further argued that the visa imposition was not only about travel, but also a global reflection of TNT's weakened diplomatic standing and national security deficiencies. Here's the thing. I agree with Griffith. Because I think, as you were saying, Ronnie, this is how this was supposed to be handled. No, the United Kingdom can't just post back the asylum seekers. But if Trinidad and Tobago was so knowledgeable about this whole affair that we wrote a national security letter to the United Kingdom warning them about these guys, aren't we writing up detention orders and the whole gold boss string out in beta? We're writing up detention orders based on the state of emergency. So, wasn't it possible? I'm suggesting, I don't know all the possibilities. Isn't it possible to have a high-level meeting with the United Kingdom security forces, their security institutions, and offer them that we're writing up a detention order for these guys. We are going to send you this detention order, and you can use this detention order as means to deport them back to Trinidad. Can't we have those discussions? Instead, you just send out a letter. Hey, we gangsters gone over by earlier. Watch out. That's all? Nathan, we have people who sitting in parliament betraying the nation for political gain, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I would think, Sweet Douglas, I know exactly the person's name. I'm just not looking to get in trouble, because I've seen that friends of hers say this is all innocent. They're looking to put up people and all of that. But then the Minister of National Security is alleging that these people are in charge of orchestrating high-profile hits and things. I am but a humble internet speaker. But I'm not even worried about court close. It's not just the court close. It's the caskets and all too, Let's stay away from those affairs. But indeed, if you're saying that you know we gangsters gone over, shouldn't you be in some kind of meeting on how to help the United Kingdom get them back here? Instead of the United Kingdom having to punish the entire country. Like, for the very least, this shouldn't be a surprise. This shouldn't be a surprise to us. From the moment they flew out, we should have been in constant communication with the United Kingdom so that we could say that, well, it was a back and forth, and in the negotiations, we knew that this was going to come. This could have come straight out of our Minister of Foreign Affairs. If we were negotiating as we should on this kind of thing, our Minister of Foreign Affairs and our Minister of National Security could have sat down in a news conference and they could have released this information that, well, we are in current negotiations with the United Kingdom to maintain our visa requirement status, but currently we are seeing some difficulty in some security issues that have cropped up, and for the next 6 months they have decided to make a pause on the visa. Like, if you were in debate, if you were actually in some kind of negotiation, that's the kind of thing I would expect. Not, oh shucks, hey, they tell we no. Who snitch on Trinidad and talk about when we were allegedly smuggling oil? Who snitch on Trinidad and asked for sanctions when the government was allegedly smuggling dragon oil? Well, yes, we had an opposition doing things like that. And they are still doing things like that. That's part of the story I'm looking to get into here. IR specialists weigh in on UK visa adjustment. International relations experts have called on government to seek a deeper understanding of the underlying causes driving people to seek asylum. And this is why I don't like these people. I can't stand these people, Nearly the whole social sciences block in universities, they need to delete it. International relations, a lot of the education block to the Department of Education, the different social science, delete, because these are delusional, crazy people. We as a country need to seek a deeper understanding of the underlying causes driving people to seek asylum. I could tell you the underlying causes. Gun charges. At least for one. For one of them, it was gun charges. My brother is out there while he's wanted here, allegedly, on some gun charges. And making videos. Boasting that they're giving him free money. Free stay. Free everything. All right. All right. We good. We real good. Extra $722 fee to use Visa Center. TNT nationals visiting UK to pay even more. Nationals applying for a United Kingdom visa will now pay an additional fee of $722.14 for use of the center, separate from the online application fee. This follows the announcement on Monday. We know this. The British High Commission to Trinidad and Tobago also on Monday advised the fees associated with online application for a visa. However, a separate fee applies for an appointment at its One Woodbrook Place Center. White leather. I didn't even know. Was that the one who allegedly was in a little domestic dispute with said politician? Okay. Didn't Trump come out and say sanctions for countries that do business with Venezuela? Yeah, but that doesn't directly line up to us in Trinidad and Tobago because we got permission from them to do the business with Venezuela. So it's not as straightforward when it comes to Trinidad and Tobago. And citizens from Jamaica, Dominica already needed visas for UK travel. So it's not just a Trini thing. So it's not that Trinidad reached to the dogs like nobody else. We just joined the we joined the pound. I cut you off? How I cut you off? I did no such thing. I did no such thing. Besides, Trinidad and Tobago citizens from at least two CARICOM countries, Jamaica and Dominica, require visas to travel to the United Kingdom. So we join the ranks of Jamaica and Dominica. Dirk Birrat says, I'd prefer go Russia and Cuba than the UK anytime. Well, more power to you, brother. More power to you. Get through. UK not getting my dollars. I don't blame you. I have no interest in paying that money either. I have zero interest in paying that money either. Another person standing up to the imperial powers, though, Motley prepared to lose US visa. Defends Cuban health brigade. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley says she is prepared to have a United States visa revoked as she urged Caribbean community countries to ensure they are able to explain what the Cubans have been able to do for us as they seek to defend the Cuban Health Brigade program. This matter with Cubans and the nurses should tell us everything that we need to know. Barbados does not currently have Cuban medical staff or Cuban nurses, but I'll be the first to go to the line and to tell you that we could not get through the COVID-19 pandemic without the Cuban nurses and the Cuban doctors, Motley said in a statement in Parliament. Motley, the latest CARICOM leader to address the issue, said she would be the first to inform the world that Cuban health professionals have been paid the same thing that we pay Bajans, and that the notion, as was peddled not just by this government in the US, but the previous government, that we were involved in human trafficking by engaging with the Cuban nurses, was fully repudiated and rejected by us. Here's the question. You are not answering their allegation. You are not answering their allegation. The allegation isn't that you didn't send money for the job done. The allegation is that the money did not go to the doctors directly. And I find this very dishonest, the way these Caribbean leaders are dealing with this. If you want to play, and we'll read on where she spoke about standing up on principle and all of this. If you want to stand up on principle, well then be clear-eyed about the principle. Let's be honest about it. You are okay with this style of work because of the benefit it gets you. But let's not deny what the style of work is. She went on, Miss Motley. Now, I don't believe that we have to shout across the seas, but I am prepared, like others in this region, that if we cannot reach a sensible agreement on this matter, then if the cost of it is the loss of my visa to the US, then so be it. But what matters to us is principles. And I have said over and over that principles only mean something when it is inconvenient to stand by it. Now, we don't have to shout, but we can be resolute. Nathan, is the United going to send their precious medical professionals to fill the voids? I just curious. Well, here's the thing, Abdul. Here's the thing. Miss Motley says she's standing on principle. She didn't say she's standing on pragmatism. So, if you're standing on pragmatism, then you're doing what works best for your country, the decisions that fit best to, solve the problems that your country faces. And if that means you use Cuban doctors in the present incarnation, you can access them, then fine. But if you're telling me you're standing on principle, what's the principle here? What's the principle? Like, let's actually flesh out the principle. Abdul says the United States don't care about Cuban doctors. This is geopolitics. Abdul, for the millionth time, yes, I don't care either. Stop it. We know. Yes, we know. We know. But it is what it is. It is still what is going on. So, if you're telling me that you don't care about the morality, then it's all geopolitics. Then we don't look at morality in any of the dealings, and it's all on pragmatism. And the pragmatism here is whether the Cuban doctors benefit you more than a relationship with the United States. And if that is the case, don't mama guy we and talk about principles and solidarity and standing with the stop lying. You are on the same thing as the United States. You are choosing Cuban doctors to come as indentured laborers for the same geopolitical reasons. So don't look at the United States when they are attempting to move around for their benefit and look at them and point your finger. You do the same thing. All the governments have to do is give the doctors the option to leave your splinter cell if they want whoever wants to. That's not all they have to do, Abdul. That's not all they have to do. If, as is alleged, their families are basically kidnapped in Cuba, their families remain in Cuba, they cannot come with their families, then you are working someone who is under duress. You could say you're free to leave anytime, but their family member is held, so they are not free to leave anytime. White Leather says the amount of them here, how come no interview with any Cuban doctor yet? White Leather, do you really honestly believe that you could go and interview a Cuban doctor and get a plain statement on the goings on? Like, let's be reasonable about this. It's a fact that between 25 and 9% of the salary is what goes to the individuals. That is known. That isn't debated. Between 9 and 25% of the salary goes to the doctors. The rest goes home. We know this. So let's be reasonable in our questioning here. If that's the case, if you remain loyal to Cuba and only get 10% of your salary, but doctors are wanted all over the world, and if they renounce Cuba, they could get 100% of their salary. Why do you think the doctors do not renounce Cuba and go work on their own? Like, let's be reasonable. Is it just because all of the Cuban doctors are so sold on the Cuban Revolution that they will sacrifice their own salaries for the good of the fatherland Cuba? Do you really believe that's what is going on? Like, honestly, that's what you believe is going on? And it's kind of funny when people would say, they would attempt to use a moral argument against Uncle Sam, that the US is attempting to exploit and abuse people for this. But they have zero opinion on what the Cuban government is doing. So Abdul, are you okay then with what? It's amazing to me, Abdul, that up until now, the only framing you could see this in is America bad. Up till now, you can't see it in the framing as all of these countries are bad too. And here's the thing. Very often, this is what the United States does. They're looking at a legitimate issue and using it to their geopolitical benefit. If I am going up in some election against a rapist, and I'm campaigning on the basis that my opposition is a rapist. He's a graper. He likes to grape. Yes, I am using it for my political means. But that does not excuse the graping of the graper. So you're more concerned about our sovereignty than slavery? Abdul, you would have been one of the Africans vexed with England for stopping the slave trade. You would have been in Africa blue mad. You would have been one of the African chiefs writing heated letters to the King of England. How dare you infringe on our sovereignty and our slave trade? How dare you? I see it. The Arabic world and the African world did indeed fight the Europeans for their sovereignty to maintain their slave trade. Maybe you're right. Maybe those Africans and Arabs were in good standing to do such. What Rubio said, the United States has raised questions about the program that CARICOM countries have insisted has benefited the region significantly. Rubio announced recently that Washington would be expanding an existing Cuba-related restriction policy that targets forced labor linked to the Cuban labor export program. How dare we watch Qatar and frown at Qatar for burying slave-level workers under stadiums when they build? That's their sovereign choice. to be slavers if they want. And I don't even consider this stepping on our sovereignty. This isn't stepping on our sovereignty. Hey, Nisi, long time, Nisi, how you been? This isn't stepping on our sovereignty. We are still free to make those decisions. They didn't come in with a color revolution and try and put in some usurper and a coup. No. They stipulated their geopolitical objectives and said, if you want to go along with us, you're free to do so. If you don't, well, you're free to not. How is that stepping on our sovereignty? What about that steps on our sovereignty? They're saying, if you want to do business with us, we require X. Imagine you have a big Muslim businessman. A big Muslim businessman, he has a grocery, a warehouse or something. And he allows me to plant my cassava, and I bring my feed bags worth of cassava over to his warehouse, and I sell it there and get a nice bit of money for it. Imagine if the big Muslim businessman tells me, brother Aki, when you're coming on my compound, I don't want you to use bacon. I don't want to smell any alcohol on your breath when you come in here. Why are you gonna tell him, boy, you can't tell me what to drink, boy. You can't tell me why I could drink and why I can't drink, boy. You're right, alright, he can't tell me that I could go and drink all the rum in the world. Just do not do business on the man's compound. But if I want to remain doing business on the man's compound, I have to follow the stipulations that the man gives. Yet still they're doing business with China. It's their prerogative. So, do you want to then remove the sovereignty of the United States? Do you want to remove their sovereignty? Do you want us to determine who they do business with? Can we do that? And I mean, we could say those stipulations. We could write a letter over to the United States and tell the United States, stop doing business with China, or else we wouldn't send any more sugar cake and tulum. Why are they buying lithium from Congo? Because they are dishonest and they're trying to make maximum money. And Congo is where you get the lithium from. I am not arguing anyone's moral superiority here. So telling me that these people get slave mined minerals from Central Africa isn't telling me something new or different. I am aware. But if we are to see that we have a problem with the slave mining of lithium in Africa, then we have to actually look at the moral issues around the Cuban labor export. Like, if we are to say, like Ms. Motley, that we indeed are concerned about the principle of this issue. We are principled people here in the Caribbean. If we want to make that argument, then we have to stand up on principle. If not, then rip up the whole principle talk and let me run on pragmatism and run on money and make the decisions based on that. Let's not talk out of the two sides of our mouths. If we're running on principle, then we have to principally look and evaluate the Cuban situation. If not, hush him out and decide it geopolitically. But that's all the world is being run on, Nathan. Money. Yeah, to a large extent. And, Abdul, in a thwarted kind of way, I prefer that. In a thwarted kind of way, I prefer that. That's why I prefer capitalism. It's not that I believe money is more important than human life or any kind of silly thing like that. It's that I believe money and selfish gain of money is the most honest view you could get of people. I could depend on each individual to selfishly want to gain as much money as they want. And that's what the free market and capitalism uses. So I don't have to depend on Miss Motley actually being principled and actually, wanting the best for everyone. I don't have to depend on that. I depend on you aiming to make the most money, I aiming to make the most money, all of us aiming to make the most money, and we come together to deal based on that. Capitalism makes sense to me. Straightforward. Don't mama guy me about principle and principle and principle. We not in that. Wait, I barely hearing you there, bro. Yeah, it's my fault. My volume was low.
I didn't know one was. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah. You're good now.
Oh, we good. Yeah, you see this thing where we try to play these moral superiority games with countries. I just find that supremely ridiculous, right? Like if Barbados isn't complicit in the detriment of Cuban doctors, like whoever utilizes Cuban doctors to this degree isn't also an accomplice with the Cuban government in the mistreatment of Cuban doctors.
Correct.
I want to talk about the TM in the Congo. This is absolutely ridiculous. Then we want to talk about America. You see, people love to watch upon America just because they are the homogeny as the bad guys. When we have literal world leaders grandstanding about morality and bleeding hearts while their government are complicit in the harm of particular people. Like, listen, not to really call names, but I sure there are literal world leaders that probably see on Zoom video call the people's family members tie up in a basement. I mean, okay, we still got to utilize doctors. Like, come on, guys. These type of games, we gotta stop that, man. Is it that we're going to accept morality across the board and still be subjective with this based upon our biases? Because that's not going to work.
And Abdul, I agree with you. I don't know if you're thinking I am in disagreement with what you're saying. Yes, this is about money. I agree. I think they were saying the Dr. Labor program might be the #1 money maker for Cuba. So yes, it is about money. The American government has been trying to starve the Cuban government out of power for a long time now. And the Cuban government very resourcefully have been finding ways around it. This has been one of the ways they found around it. The US government has decided we're looking to end this. This means you have around us starving you out. We're looking to end this. So yes, it is about money. I agree.
I put this thing just really tough. The reason I have an issue with this is because they're trying to make this about morals. They're trying to paint the image of this doctor taking this issue they're having as if they have some moral care about them doctors. Them don't care if them doctors are alive and buried in a latrine. Them don't care about it. This is about strangling a nation.
Yes.
Because for decades they have investors that want to get in that nation. And they want to break that alliance with Russia. That is all this is about. Yes.
Not get in, Abdul. Get back in. They have investments. I think they are still long-term investors that lost money in the Cuban Revolution, that are looking at their investments they lost and would like it back. Remember, the US was heavily involved in Cuba pre-Castro. You know?
Exactly.
Correct.
I'm not saying the arrangements that certain CARICOM nations have with the Cuban doctors might be fair, morally wrong. I'm not denying all that, you know. But just the idea that the United States could come and paint this as a moral issue, it pisses me off.
Here's another thing that pisses me off with that same thing. And this is a situation similar, but people do the same thing. The Russia-Ukraine bacchanal. People attempt to make that seem like a moral thing, you know. The evil, wicked Putin and the evil, wicked Russians invaded the pure, innocent, good Ukrainians, and we have to help them. It's a good versus evil. It's heaven fighting hell. And then you hear them, those same people, in a military strategic symposium, and they're talking about, well, what is going on right now in the Russian theater is we are seeing a significant reduction in the strength of Russia's military. Them talking about young fellas dying in it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Russian military is now 50% weaker than they were previous to the Ukrainian raid. They mean 50% of the young fellas dead in it. And they talking about good versus evil in it. And they calling it a meat grinder. The meat that is being ground is young men, you know.
Yeah.
And they talk about it like, you know, meat grinder, and it's a good bastion against the Russian military. And Ukrainian youth men dying, Russian youth men dying for your just simple geopolitical games you playing. You want to sell natural gas to Europe through Syria. Syria fall there. You want to bring the is Qatari, some one of them small Arab oil gas places. You want to send their oil through Syria into Europe. Syria and Russia was holding you back. Russia was sending it through Ukraine. So now you're looking to disrupt that. They already boast they blow up a pipeline coming from Russia. That is legit, literal terrorism. They boast they did it. So I am not saying that I believe these people are morally superior and they're doing these things for moral reasons. I agree. They are doing it for selfish, pragmatic reasons. They think it would benefit themselves more. They think it may benefit their countries more. But when we defend it using moral grounds, we best be on the moral stand. Because you have to prove it in the moral grounds. If you're saying this is all geopolitics and that's what we're doing, fine, do that. But don't say we're fighting it on moral grounds and we're wrong morally too. You says we all know it's our power, but the language and tool we speak is morality. Yes, and that's why it's so useful for the United States to use the son of Cuban immigrants who could legitimately see, I saw the dangers and the cruelty and the wickedness of the Castro regime out of Cuba, and I know personally of Cuban doctors that have defected after years, and the trauma and the nightmare stories. So that's why it's useful to use a Cuban American to bring this message. But I don't buy it being moral. No, I don't buy that.
I will go on next way, man. Listen. knowing listen. I don't mind if America is willing to put an end to dictatorship, to dictatorial regimes, to be honest with you. I mean, yes, we understand that America has their own particular interests, right? And that's fine. We could critique that, but I have no problem if America is willing to end the Cuban dictatorial regime that they have over the country for like the past 60-something years. I have no problem with that. At least the country might thrive. At least the Cuban doctors might get paid, and at least the Cuban doctors' family might actually be able to survive.
And you know, Trini Hotel, the point you're making there, I find some people are dishonest with that. While we look at it understanding its geopolitical games, some people make it seem like it's all the same. Like the guy who said he'd rather go to Cuba or Russia than the United Kingdom. You watch the vast majority of people who say things like that and they don't live like that. They don't live out that reality in truth. They prefer the Americanized, more free world. They prefer that. You could tell by where they choose to live. You could tell by where they choose to invest. So many people are dishonest with this. They prefer the American hegemony. They just like to hate it at the same time. And you says learn to play the game or you will get ignored. And that's why I made a video on Paul Kagame out in Rwanda. That's a man who learned to play the game. When he first invaded the Congo in 2015, 2014, they tell him we will cut all your international aid. Stop it. And he had to stop it. But now, when you have Visit Rwanda and Arsenal jersey, and Bayern Munich jersey, and Paris Saint-Germain jersey, when you inside People Palace all over in Europe, when you are the peacekeeper in all these African countries, where all these European nations have investments, when they have investments in your country, when they have the future sporting tournaments planned for your country, they hand inside the proverbial lion mouth. So now, he could swing back and say, well, I want to invade Congo again. And you know they ain't doing anything this time. They're leaving him to invade it.
And it's okay, but this is exactly what I want to say.
To me, is this, man. Listen. People like to play these games like it's the same thing, and it's definitely not, right? This is why all the Westerners only like to take tourist trips to Cuba and China and Russia and pose in front of the Kremlin and pose in front of cars in Cuba. This is utterly ridiculous, man. Like,
what is ridiculous about this pretty hotel? The United States, as good as a nation and as great as a nation as it is, and the mass majority of people do not have an issue with the United States per se. People have an issue with the United States foreign policy. Don't conflate the two. People don't have an issue with the United States and its people. People have an issue with the United States foreign policy.
Yeah, I have a problem with the imperialistic policy too.
Right? And as it comes to dictators, a dictator is only a problem if the dictator isn't doing what they want.
Yeah, true, because yes, American history has proved that they have propped up. Of course, they have propped up dictators in Central America, South America,
Africa. And they have thrown out, well-elected governments in exchange for dictators. So I agree, it's not actually about dictators in and of itself. So yeah, but here's the thing though, Abdul. The foreign policy of the United States is the foreign policy of a big fish. And the reality is, regardless of who the big fish is, they would always have a foreign policy like that. When England, the United Kingdom, Great Britain was the big fish with the empire upon which the sun never sets, they did the same. When the Ottomans were the big fish, they did the same. When the Romans were the big fish, they did the same. When the Assyrians were the big fish, they did the same. When the Egyptians were the big fish, they did this. Going back as far as we could go back through human history, the big fish determined the policy of the small fish. That's what goes on. That's what makes them a big fish.
Agreed. But with that same sense, that means some people not being in agreement with it makes sense.
Yes, 100%.
Not because, you see, the thing is, everybody can't be silent and say, well, it is what it is, just because somebody had to say, well, yeah, we know all your quality shots, but let me be realistic here. This game is not about what trying to make it out to be. Let me be real with it. They could have called CARICOM. Let me real. Trump like media sensation.
Yes.
He could have sent the diplomats in each one of these islands or to the head of CARICOM, send a memo, send wherever, and say, we need to have a little meeting here. Let me discuss this before we blow it up. Right? He say, you know what? Yeah, it's them Caribbean, them banana republics too. They will light a fire.
Here's the thing. I think I'm not like, some people try to say that Trump like he is super genius and he's playing 5D chess that nobody could decide. I don't think so. But I do think he is smarter than some people give him credit for. And I do think that he's purposefully playing some of these games. By making the announcement of tariffs to and fro and up and down, and you're going to do this and you're going to cancel Cuban doctors, even before he does it, it's disrupting the systems that he's trying to disrupt. Just by saying he's going to do this tariff and doing that tariff and going to do that, numbers are going up and down. And I think some of that is the very intention. I think some of that is the very intention. Where, what's that?
I
agree with it. I agree with what you're saying.
So, like even this Cuba business, I think, and if you look at it, as I said from the very jump, it seems strategic in that he's positioning it as a punishment on the leaders of CARICOM and their families, not on the citizens, on the leaders of CARICOM and their families. That puts CARICOM leaders in a very ticklish position. Because you, as a CARICOM leader, you have to take the position that Ms. Motley and Dr. Rowley took. Because if you are saying that the Cuban doctors are necessary for our health, then you have to keep the Cuban doctors. But at the same time, you don't want the US to get upset with these islands and hurt the trade of the islands, so you have to take their punishment. So you have no choice but to say, I alright with you canceling my visa. Because that's the only way you could not look bad to your constituents. That's you are put into a very difficult position there. So now when CARICOM goes to have whatever negotiation they're going to have, don't doubt, you hear when they go to have this negotiation with whoever they go to have it with, there's a whole long list of desires that the new US administration have that have very little to actually do with the Cuban doctors in the end. It's a way to force them into negotiation.
This is correct.
But
this
one island, that's not what one island that whether it works in their favor or not, that they need to be little careful dealing with is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because St. Vincent and the Grenadines doesn't necessarily have to sway to their way under pressure.
Correct.
Las Gonzalez could sway towards Russia. He is very capable of swaying towards Russia.
But I think Ralph is a wily old fox. Uncle Ralph, he ain't now come. You don't survive in America's backyard as a notorious lefty running a free country in it. Those guys be assassinating and cooing people all the time. So he's a shrewd dealer. I don't think, has he made any big public statement on this yet? I haven't read his yet.
He publicly said, the Cuban doctors are the ones running the dialysis units in St. Vincent, and he's not going to allow 60 people to die for a US visa.
And that's a smart statement. That's not a statement that flies in the US face either. That's a diplomatic statement. The man is intelligent.
I think the roughest statement was our Prime Minister.
He could say that because he retired, he resigning. That is why he could say something like that.
I would really say, Miss Motley's statement is really the one that flying out there at the present moment, to be honest with you. But listen.
But Miss Motley don't have no Cuban doctors.
But she said she's telling me she can't come back. That's what she said.
She could say that. But you know what that is like? That is like when Kamala Prasad-Bissessar says that she not taking the increase in pay, and you find out she don't have a choice in the matter. She have to be forced to take it.
Maybe she on the left side too, I think she on the
Well, yeah,
list,
she.
example.
That is not. I think she definitely is. That's. I always say this. Miss Motley is my most disliked Caribbean leader, not because of her leadership ability. I think she's an exceptionally good politician. She's good at politics, very good at it. But I do not like her direction. I think she would sell us off to the World Economic Forum and the globalists at the first opportunity.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, the thing for me is, I don't know why the Caribbean, knowing that our geographical location is where it's at, wants to play these games between big fishes in this big pond at this present moment. You see, it's always good to stay quiet and, you know, watch the scenes, because, you know, there has literally proverbs that spoke about this. If I was the leader of a Caribbean country, best believe I'd be like Switzerland. You want me to say something? No, I'm saying nothing. It serves no purpose for me personally, in my point of view, to make any statement in a geopolitical landscape like this.
But
Knowing
Trinidad
the
has
history,
no choice.
knowing the hit, well, of course, it's Trinidad and Tobago. I never say I was in Trinidad and Tobago. Even if I was Trinidad and Tobago, listen, I ain't making a damn statement.
Because of where we are located.
Allocated nothing. Listen,
No, this beef, and I say the word beef, between the present administration and Donald Trump as president in particular, between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Donald Trump, has been going on since his last presidency. This is not new. This issue that he has had with the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been going on since his last presidency, because Dr. Keith Rowley chose to say, I am not going to take your side, Venezuela's side, we remain neutral, we for negotiations. This beef is not new.
And I heard some people speaking, I was listening to some people talking about Australia. So, for example, Australia is, I think, the only member of the Five Eyes Club, you know, their little secret spy crew with the United States and those guys, who hasn't yet met the president of the US personally. And they're saying it's because the Australian Prime Minister and the people that he appointed are known detractors of Trump. And the program I was watching was talking about, in the business world, the way how he is attempting to run this thing like a business. He works on relationship. So he has a relationship with this person and a relationship with this person and a relationship. So if that is the case, as you're saying, Abdul, then it would be in our best interest to attempt to forge a relationship. Like, for one, I'll give Stuart this. When the Guyana-Venezuela bacchanal broke out last week, he was very diplomatic in how he spoke about it. He didn't actually criticize the Venezuelans. And I think some of that is necessary. I think what is beneficial to us is to not surrender to MAGA and the US while making sure we don't step on their toes. That's the way you do it.
Correct.
Don't step on their toes, but don't surrender to them. That's the balance we have to strike.
a delicate balance, I would say.
Very delicate. Very.
And I believe in being neutral. Listen, Caribbean country need to be the most absolute neutral as possible. The neutrality needs to be so vibrant. Because, listen, we need to stop playing these games. Until the Caribbean could forge their own federation once again and hold some kind of political power in this world, the neutrality is just ever so viscous. We need it. But no, we want to play these kind of pompous games when we get ready because, you know, we want to oppose America when we get good and ready and we want to... I have no time for that.
It's not just about pompous games, Shini Hotep. Let me give you a reference, right? They like to call us, this is their backyard, right? Name one CARICOM nation on the visa waiver list. Name one that was released this week. Name one CARICOM nation on the visa waiver list. Name one. Where's the backyard? Name one.
None, I think.
None. Where's the backyard, right? And we should tread light and kind of pander to them in a kind of way, right? But not one CARICOM nation on the visa waiver list.
I think, though, to be fair on the visa waiver list, That's because we go and pile in the people country. We bad talk the people country and then go and hide out in basements to stay there.
Everybody that do it, Nathan, the whole world. Listen, in our general consensus, the majority of the world, let's say, what, you see it on social media. There's Americans gone. They will still go there. All the poor Eastern European countries, there's flock there. All the poor Eastern European countries, there's flock there.
Mm-hmm.
Because they market themselves as paradise on earth.
I don't think it's the marketing anymore. They did that, but I don't think it's the marketing anymore. It's the market. It's the market that is available that people want. Where, listen, the US is 320 million people, 320 or, so, or more than that, somewhere up there, 300 million people. If I ran a podcast like this in Trinidad and I average 30 to 50 viewers live, total at the end is a couple hundred by the end. The percentage of Trinidad's population that is, if I were to take that over to the United States and I got the same percentage of the US population talking about US issues, it's not going to be the same. The amount of money that I would make would not be the same. The market that is available is way different. And that's what I think most people want. Most people want to go there for the market, for the money, the ability to make money. Well, the truth is not all the time everyone is successful by going across there and doing it. But that's what they go for really and truly. I don't even think they're going for that seventh heaven, white picket fence, paradise and earth lie that was sold in the 80s and 90s. I don't think that's what people are going for.
That done.
Money.
But not everybody know that done enough in YouTube. Not everybody know that done enough.
No, everybody know that done. Everybody there's there for the money and send it back home. Listen. Yes, there are people who try to escape their countries due to the fact that, their country's political, landscape is so great, right? So they'll get more freedom in the United States. But no, I don't think there's nobody crossing the border. There's nobody coming as expats. There's nobody coming as asylum seekers to America to join this American dream of a white picket fence. No, they're coming to get the money. Send it back home to family so they can live nice. The dollars go further within any other country that is coming from an expat country. Like, what is we saying? Nobody coming to do this whole American poster child nonsense anymore. How are you doing that?
I agree. I think the vast majority is money. It's just money.
Of question later.
Mm-hmm.
Currency-wise, what position is the US dollar?
What do you mean?
Currency value, what position is the US dollar?
If it is the as in the top, I don't know. I don't know what top. The strongest in terms of what? The strongest in terms of what?
Exchange rates and value, market value.
No, it's not the strongest in the world. Isn't the pound currently more than the USD?
I think it's the Kuwait.
Kuwait is the strongest currency.
Kuwait now.
Right.
Second is Oman.
Mm-hmm.
Not even Saudi. Second is Oman.
Yeah.
Now, these are the countries that Middle Eastern bloc there that is trading all that energy in US dollars. That really is the reason for that US strength, for that US market viability and vibrance, along with the population size.
Mm-hmm. And the free market.
And the free market, but it is dwindling. It is dwindling.
Well, that's where this orange guy is saying. That's what the orange guy is saying, and that's why he says his first major aim in his campaign was drill, baby, drill. For that very same reason you're saying there. Because the truth is, it's all about energy, Everything is all about energy, The reason slavery ended was because we found alternative uses of energy. What slaves were essentially was free energy. All you had to do was feed the energy. That's The people with a lot of capital, people with a lot of power, people with a lot of money, since time immemorial, have been trying to get ways to get energy. Because energy is a way to get things done. If I could get access to a lot of energy, I could get more things done. Simple like that. You watch the wealthiest countries, how do you tell the wealthiest countries by and large? The amount of energy they use. Kinda without fail. The wealthier countries use more energy. If you want your country to become more wealthy, make energy cheaper and allow them to get more energy use. So that's why he's talking about drill, baby, drill, because there are theories, numerous theories, plausible theories that the United States has way more gas reserves than anywhere else. Alaska, for one, Alaska is overloaded. So maybe they have all of it in their own territory. And if they do, that's trouble for the rest.
Correct.
But they're not letting us drill, baby, drill, though.
Yeah, we know they're unfair. They're unfair. But you know what he offering? And this is the strategy of this. It is a strategy to suck from the wool and carry there. That gold card offer he's putting up there. You all heard about the gold card instead of the green card? You pay $5 million and you get a gold card. And you go to the US. Listen, there are people that are going to pay that.
I can't even start to afford that.
It's not for you. It's not for you. You know who it's for? The Kuwaiti businessman who is already a decamillionaire, multimillionaire, and he is watching the US going on the rise, and maybe their market isn't on the same peak, and he wants to go open companies in the US to make money. $5 million is nothing.
Listen.
There are people in Trinidad right now.
Right? Well, speaking on that later, I watched an interview with one from UAE. And his words was, I watched his interview, he was like, yes, and he could afford $5 million US, but he was like, why would I pay $5 million US to go and pay more taxes? I live in a tax-free country. And when you get that green card, every piece of finances you have anywhere in the world is now taxed. That was his words, you know.
Yes. But here's why. Tariffs.
Thank you.
So, in order for you to be a businessman and have an effective business, all effective businesses by and large the world over aim for the US market because they have the most lucrative market. Everybody wants a juicy piece of that US market. And he is saying the way to get in this market is bring your company here. So if I have the potential to sell to the global market, find a global market to sell my good to whatever it might be I'm doing, and I have the potential to make my company is grossing 300 million a year. But I have the potential to go and enter the US market, where I would have the US market, which by itself may gross me 400 million a year. And if I do it in the US, I could still export it to the world and still get that 300 million. So that's 400 plus 300. Now it's 700 million a year I am grossing with my company. Would that be worth $5 million to go and do it there? For some people, they would say yes.
Well, yeah, it's so and so to us, but I don't think the billionaires who are already established in the world really buy into it.
I don't think it's for the billionaires. Billionaires go in and out the United States anyway. They don't need that. It's for the decamillionaires. The person worth 50 million, the person worth 60 million, the rich people in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, you see, of course it wouldn't trap the obvious, men at the wrong table who've been there at the wrong table probably like 70 years now, right? Of course, it's for the emerging millionaires. They haven't tapped into the American market, and they only tapped into their local market. And what's juicy? What's more juicy than Wall Street? What's more juicy than the Nasdaq? What's more juicy than that? and they could exponentially gain more profit and gain more money. So yes, a Kuwaiti man with his little chic shit on, you know what I'm saying? He could say that, why would I pay 5 million? Well, sir, you only make that money in your Kuwaiti money. You don't make it
Kuwaiti money is worth more than the US dollar.
That doesn't matter. But you know the reserves. You know the reserves.
We would not do it.
The taxes.
He would not do it is because he will be taxed there. When
that's fine.
In his country, he's tax free.
That's fine. But that's in his country's money. You see, here's the thing, right? The reserves of the world is run on US dollars, right? At the end of the
but
day,
his US dollars are tax free in Kuwait.
That's fine. That's fine. But again, once your business is tied to the American market, it's kind of international. He makes money in all the markets around the world. Once you touch Wall Street, that's it. Your company goes public. Your company literally touches every single market that is lucrative.
Here's what I think, Abdul. Here's what I think. Like the Kuwaiti guy, the UAE guy. Like what's the richest guy? Dangote, the African billionaire. I don't think you're going to get Mr. Dangote to leave Nigeria. That's not happening. He is very comfortable. He is quite fine. If he wants to go to the US, he hops in a private plane and go and come as he pleases, enters without hassle. He don't even have to walk through the security. He doesn't have that worry. However, if he has a child, the child is married to somebody, that somebody has a nephew, so you're related to a very wealthy man, but by proxy, you're part of the extended family, and you want to start a business. So you're Dangote's second nephew, twice removed, and you want to start a business. But you want to be able to access the US market. You have enough capital to start off a business worth 15 million with family money. But 15 million starting a business in West Africa versus 15 million starting a business in the United States has a way different market reach.
Thank you.
So if I am second nephew twice removed of Dangote, and I could get 20 million, 5 million gives me a gold card, 15 million gives me my business in Florida, wouldn't I take that 20 million offer and go be an American? Abdul, doesn't that sound like something you'd see happening?
Yes, to some it would be attractive. To some, of course, it would be attractive to some.
And then, here's the thing. The more attractive it becomes, the more attractive it gets. The more people take that gold card, the more people will want that gold card. So I actually think that might work for them, because I know there are people. I know people in Trinidad right now, living in gated communities and wanting to leave, but they don't want to go and hide out, and the process a little difficult. They would jump at the opportunity to dive out of the country and live legally in the US as a citizen. They would love that. Many of those gated community people.
But the buy-in right now for the United States is 500,000 US. They invest and get a green card.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is 100,000 Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 100,000 Canadian to invest in Canada, you can get permanent residence through that road. That is the buy-in price. For the US is 500,000.
Yes.
That was the buy-in price. That was always there.
Yes. But don't you think if you have the money, you would want the higher level of getting in? Listen, Trump made his money. This man made his money off of that kind of marketing. You know?
If I had 100 million or 80 million right now in US dollars, I wouldn't go to North America with that money. I wouldn't go. It might sound funny, but I would not go to North America with that money.
Where would you go?
I wouldn't.
Where would you go?
Me personally, I would find myself either in Oman, that is basically doing the same thing. What is the Lord about? This is the thing. Do research. I do research because that is the place I want to migrate to. So I have done my research in depth. And this this is a place that allows you to own 100% of your business, tax-free, buy properties, legally live there. No, it's not like Saudi where a Saudi national has to own 50% of the business. It's not like Saudi.
But what's the government structure of Oman?
It's the same thing. It is a monarchy.
So, can those rules change by morning?
It could change rules.
Shah of Oman
It's the
to change it
same with Trump doing executive orders and changing rules.
But Trump isn't getting through with that. Like 90% of Trump's executive orders are challenged in the court. And many of them are struck down by the court.
This may shock you, Nathan. I know Trinidadians that have left here, close their business, and go on to Saudi and open business.
I know, boy, I have family living in the Middle East. You don't have to tell me this. I know. And there are many people living real comfortably. They're balling out in the Middle East. You don't have to tell me that. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all. I'm talking about in terms of if you're looking for a safe investment, as that's what many people would be looking for, a safe investment. If you're looking for a safe investment, generally what people look for is non-volatility of the government. And now, Oman and those guys, that's why even as Muslim as they might be, those guys don't encourage some of the stuff you see in those other countries that want to go down extremist route and thing. That's why the Saudi foreign minister been warning Europe years now, because they understand the stability is how they make their money. So I don't even think that Oman has a large chance of just taking your property just so by the morning. I don't think so. But the reality is that the structure, the government structure of the country would allow for that much more easily than it would in the United Kingdom or the United States, etc. Even more than in Trinidad. I was looking at a case today. A businessman got his excavator seized for illegal quarrying in 2005. He just won the case. That is to tell you how long it takes. But he just won the case this year to get some money for that. But there's interest on that. That's how it works here. If this was a monarchy, and the monarchy say your excavator not supposed to be digging dirt here, we taking it.
Yeah, take that luck.
No, but even so, all this tax-free and tax-free, people really think just because, countries do open trade, all of a sudden you just on people's market. No. You as a businessman, Oman doesn't necessarily mean that you are tapped into the American market. You are just tapped into the local market of the geographical location you are in.
Whatever you say, are you suggesting that the businessmen in Kuwait, UAE, Saudi, and Oman are not tapped into the US market?
Some are. The billionaires are, the expats are, sure. But, the low-level businessmen are not. And they would gladly pay $5 million to tap into the American market.
Yes, I'm not denying that. I am not denying that have the people who that would incentivize them, and they would be interested in that. But
Saudi real tapped in right now, and that is why he trying to do the tariffs to make sure you have to come to stay tapped in. But Saudi right now, Saudi is like the global business center,
One of the largest foreign investors in the United States is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the Saudis themselves as an entity. I'm talking about the location. I like podcasts. Look at the podcasting world. Lots of them are in Saudi right now, That's what they do. Because, okay, if I want to do business with Europe, I want to do business with Asia, I want to do business with Africa. Where all of those meet? Middle East. So lots of businesses done in the Middle East, they are tapped into the US market. That's why he's looking to shake off some of them, so to force them to have to actually go into the US and do business. But we'll see if he's successful at that. Anyway, people, it's after 12. Let me finish. Any closing words from Hotep and Abdul before we dive out?
I just saying, as it pertains to the little CARICOM issue, I really feeling that this thing, they're trying to violate my sovereignty. I feeling a little disturbed. They bring it home on the yard, now it's in my yard. The pelt mango the pelt big son at my mango tree. It land on my roof.
Huh?
It's in my yard now. It's not like I'm watching the news and seeing the back of that happening somewhere else, you know. It's in my yard now.
Our Cuban doctors, my guy.
It has to do with us.
It does.
It
It has to
does.
do with us. You know, a little disturbed.
It throw off your equilibrium a little bit there.
Yeah. It come too close to home, day.
The man given like if Americans want to put US Navy vessels near the
But they already asked Guyana to do that last year, Hotep. The US government asked Guyana to allow them to put a military base in Guyana. Don't you know that, Trini Hotep?
Yes, I mean, come
Okay,
on, I mean.
so the
But
next step,
they are literal army pools in Trinidad
please
and
remember
Tobago.
we already had a US naval base in Trinidad and Tobago. Please remember this. And anything happen, they are going to request it again.
Of request.
Yeah.
Request. Yeah. Like they tell request what? If Trinidad and Tobago get a little if Trinidad and Tobago would get a little smart and feel they could run wrong America and support some of these countries that align with Russia, watch out quick, the request of the US to put a blockade will become Come on.
We are too close to the Russian ally to mash the Russian ally toes in any rough way. We are too close to them.
Well, our opposition leader is calling them a narco state and corrupt. I want to know, listen, I am kind of curious if Tanti win.
We're going to get a US base. I could bet anytime we're going to get a US base if Tanti win. She's going to fully align.
That's a narco state, you know, guys. Sometimes we have to call it what it is.
It's Trinidad, but you can call Trinidad a narco state same way.
Nah, come, don't do that.
Listen, Trini Hotep maybe, but even Trumpy boy himself, Orange Man himself, when speaking about the negotiations with Russia, he was basically trying to make the point that people are trying to get him to insult Putin, but you don't start off negotiation by insulting the person you have to negotiate with. It doesn't make sense.
Also, of course, it is. I was just speaking in actual factual terms now. You don't actually insult the people you guys try to negotiate
that don't add up, bro. What Tanti? How you going and meet Delcy and them? How Delcy playing landing in Trinidad and you walking out on the tarmac to shake her hand and tell her bienvenido when she know you calling all of them corrupt dictators that selling drugs, drug dealers.
Exactly.
I mean, she can do that, right? Trumpy boy could do that. America
Well,
cannot.
yeah, he could because he's trying to put pressure in a different way. But Trumpy boy is a strange weirdo, you know. Trumpy boy may call them and not. Listen, he is the guy who called Ted Cruz lying Ted when he was going up against him and switched on a dime when Ted turned his friend and called him Lion Ted, you know. So,
I mean, America is not like they're not known for calling out particular countries and their leaders because they're known for that nonsense, right? Like they legitimately have stood on public platforms and called out dictatorial leaders before. So it's not a thing that they wouldn't do or they never did before. It's just maybe they might go about it a little more diplomatic now because, you know, America in a shaky position, as we like to call it. But listen, Trump people can come up in the morning and say, listen, Venezuela is a dictator narco state. Putin
well,
is
they did say that. They did say that about Venezuela, and they made allegations that the Venezuelan defense minister himself is a drug dealer. Right now, he is wanted in the United States. He has been, I think, convicted. Is it convicted? but he's wanted by a U.S. District of Columbia court. The Venezuelan Minister of National Security is wanted on drug trafficking charges in the United States. So, be that as it may.
Maduro have money in his head right now. Listen, man. What are we doing? What are we saying? Maduro have money in his head, bro. From the American government.
There's no count is going to have drones in the airport, and in Wallafield, it's going to have drones, right?
People need to, whenever you're wondering about, you know, how independent and all of that Trinidad is, our main highway going on the east-west corridor is called the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. Do you know Churchill and Roosevelt, perchance?
U.S. presidents.
Are those guys notorious Trinidad leaders, perchance? They built the road to Maracas. You could go see the pictures of the U.S. engineer, the Marine Engineer Corps building the road. So I mean, and if Trumpy boy is willing to tell Panama, if we build it is ours and you can't play doing with it as you mean, I mean, we have precedent. Hey, before I stay till 12:30, till 1 o'clock, people, it was nice. We'll see each other again next week. Until next, laters. Yo, Grim One Reaper. Hey, I have to start a fun, people. Right now, this phone, the back screen went through and then it's sitting in a puddle. So he on the fritz. If you all see me disappear day of a TikTok, you know, the TikTok phone made its last note. We started a TikTok phone fund. Feel free to donate to the TikTok phone fund. Until next time, people, hold it down. This has been brought to you as usual. I'm supposed to put this out there much more often, but I don't, unfortunately. By Mindful Education, the educational institution that I run. Yes, we still out here teaching the people, children. If you are interested, we do full-time, part-time classes. Homeschooled style classes. We do most CXC subjects, most CAPE subjects, and most of the classes are in person. I like in person, I prefer in person, I think it's much better. But due to demand, we have been forced into quite a few online classes, so we offer online classes too. If you are interested in such, you need that help, you need that boost, hit me up. Until the next time, people, hold it down.